Hello, thank you for taking the time to go over the carrier onboarding checklist. This is a presentation that will go over everything that you need to submit an invoice. These are the things that we are going to go over. There's an introduction, carrier invoicing requirements, ROL EDI overview, carrier payment inquiry, and some contacts at the end of the presentation that if you have any questions, you can reach out to. So invoice data checklist. This is a checklist that will be very handy whenever you're submitting an invoice. I'm not going to go over each one, but I will go over the ones that are in bold, as these are probably the most important things to never forget when submitting an invoice. So starting with total shipment weight. When you're submitting an invoice, you should always remember to put a value in this field for shipment weight. And when you're doing that, it can never be 0 or 1. So let's say in an instance that whenever you receive paperwork, you are unable to find any shipment weight or any weight on the paperwork, or if you weren't even provided with the weight of the shipment, you can either give it your best guess or your best estimate as to what the shipment weight is, or just put 10 or 15. Just the important part is to never leave it as 0 or blank. If it is left as 0 or blank, it is likely that the invoice will just be systematically rejected and we will never receive it. BOL field. This is just as important as the shipment weight. Again, if it is left blank or does not have a value in the field when you submit the invoice, it will automatically be rejected. So again, whenever you receive paperwork, if you are unable to find any type of reference number to put into the BOL field, just type something in. So you can type none or no number, just as never leave that field blank. Again, if the BOL field is left blank, the invoice will be systematically rejected and we will not receive it. Equipment code and equipment size. So these two almost coincide with each other, but just starting with equipment code. Equipment code means the type of the type of equipment that was used. So any equipment that is used on a shipment has a certain equipment code that you will use to submit the invoice. So for instance, a flatbed has a certain equipment code, a step deck has a certain equipment code, a double drop has a certain equipment code, and in this presentation, I will give you a list of equipment codes that you can use and you can refer to if you ever have any questions. Equipment size. I will be going over into more detail what equipment size refers to later on in the presentation, but just a brief overview of what it is. Equipment size does not necessarily mean the actual size of the equipment that is used. Equipment size refers to whether it is a well site move or a multi-stop well site move. And again, I will go over into more detail as to how to differentiate the two later on in the presentation. So these are the equipment codes that I was just talking about on the checklist slide. So you can see that there's equipment codes for everything ranging from a 20-foot chassis all the way to a crane. And if for whatever reason the equipment that is used on a shipment is not listed on this slide, you could feel free to reach out to me or anyone on the business intelligence team for the correct equipment code to use. Accessorial codes. So whenever you're submitting an invoice, you might have to submit for a charge that is separate from the line haul. So just going off what this slide says, you can see that there's different codes ranging from stop-off charge all the way to overweight charge. So let's say you need to submit for a driver assist or detention or layover. Like there's going to be a certain code that you need to use for these charges. And if for whatever reason the charge that you're trying to submit for is not listed on here, again, reach out to someone, whether me or anyone on the business intelligence team. They'll be able to help you find the correct code you need to submit for. And just to reiterate, it's anything that you need to bill for that is outside of the line haul. So well site shipments. This is what I was talking about on the data checklist slide, whether it is the equipment size being a well site move or a multi-stop well site move. So starting with the first bullet point, all rig moves going to or from a rig site must be billed with an equipment type as provided on slide 5 and an equipment size of 99. If no location name is given, use the word rig along with the city, state, and zip code. So, if it is a well site move, you will use equipment size 99. Bullet point 2. Multi-stop well site moves must be billed as hourly with the total number of hours being billed in the product description field and size of 95. So, if it is a well site move, if it has multiple stops through transit, you will use equipment size 95. So again, if it is a well site move, meaning it picks up at a well site or delivers at a well site with no stops, you will use equipment size 99. Now, if it is a well site move, meaning there's somewhere in transit, the truck either picks up or delivers at a well site and there's multiple stops, you will use equipment size 95. So multi-stop well site move is 95. And just pick up and deliver with no stops and a well site is involved is 99. Bullet point 3, fuel will be calculated under code FUE, although additional fuel for the extra miles to the well site location must be billed as ZZZ. So you will submit an invoice with fuel using the code FUE, and if any additional fuel is needed for the move, you will use the accessorial code of ZZZ. So cost per mile and how to calculate it. So we use the national fuel average to calculate how to bill per mile. And just to go over that, so the national fuel average is posted every Tuesday. So you can go to the national fuel average website and you can see the posted date of what the average is for that week, and again they post it on Tuesday. That rate does not go in effect until the following Friday, and that whenever it does go in effect, it stays in effect for 7 days. So for this example, on November 19th, 2018, the national average was $3.28. That rate of $3.28 did not go into effect until the following Friday, November 23rd, 2018, and stayed in effect for 7 days until the following Thursday, November 29th, 2018. So once you have your national average, you will go to the contract that you have in place and you will find where it falls between. So for this example, the rate of $3.28 falls between $3.18 and $3.30. It's down at the bottom and it's boxed off in red, and you can see that on the far right of that, you can see what the bill, what you need to charge per mile. So for this example, $3.28 falls between $3.18 and $3.30, and the rate that you would need to bill per mile would be 17 cents. Reference numbers. So these are going to be one of the numbers that you will find on the paperwork you were provided. Whenever you find that number, this is the number you are going to put into the BOL field when you're submitting the invoice. So starting with the first one, a Ryder load number. This number will consist of 8 digits and begin with a 4, and you can see the example provided. The second one, the SAP shipment number. This number will consist of 7 digits and begin with a 3 or a 4. An SAP PO number. This number will consist of 10 digits and is associated with third-party shipments, and it will start with 4506, 4507, or 4509, or 5502. And then you can see the example that we've provided, it starts with 4506. The fourth reference number, SAP delivery ticket or transfer number. This number will consist of 9 digits and start with 811, 812, or 813. And last but not least, the cost center number. This reference number will start with 9 digits as well, but it won't have a certain three numbers that it'll start with. So for this example, it starts with 340. It could start with 123, 110, 860, 979. The list could go on, but the important part being that it will always be 9 digits long. And again, whenever you're submitting the invoice, one of these reference numbers will need to go into that BOL field when you submit it. And just to go back, if for whatever reason you are unable to find a reference number or you are not provided a reference number, whenever you get to the BOL field, just type none, N-O-N-E, or no number. This will prevent the invoice from systematically being rejected and will at least be able to receive the invoice. ROL and EDI information. So when you submit an invoice, you can either submit it through EDI or Ryder Online. And if for whatever reason you ever run into any issues using either one of these portals, these are the contacts that you will need to reach out to. So for the EDI contact, it's going to be Anthony Casenza, and you can see his phone number and email listed there below. And then for Ryder Online or ROL, you can see the two contacts listed and their phone numbers and emails listed as well. Carrier payment inquiry. So if you ever have a question about the status of an invoice and when is it going to get paid or why was it rejected, we have a tool that you can use to obtain that information. So this is something that you will need to set up yourself by going to the website listed below, www.reports.ryder.com. Once you go there, you can set up a username and password, and once you've done that, you will be able to use the carrier payment inquiry tool. Again, this tool will help you get a better understanding as to where your invoice is in the process and give you a good idea as to when is it going to get paid, or where in the process it is, or why it was rejected. So you'll just type in the invoice number and it'll give you a report telling you one of those things. Whenever you use this tool, if for whatever reason it doesn't give you enough information to fully understand where or when an invoice is going to get paid, things like that, feel free to reach out to either I or anyone on the business intelligence team, and they'll be able to give you a better understanding as to exactly like a better idea of why it was rejected, or when you can expect payment, or where in the process it is and what exactly it's going through in order for it to be approved for payment. So important reminders. These are just some things to keep in mind. These are all contractual agreements. So starting with the first one, all original invoices must be submitted within 180 days of the ship date. Baker Hughes, a GE company, will not permit payment if received after 180 days. So what that means is you need to submit an invoice within 180 days of the ship date. If you do not submit if an invoice is submitted outside of that 180 days, it'll be rejected and not permitted for payment. Bullet point 2. All invoices must be submitted via EDI or Ryder Online. Ryder no longer accepts paper submissions, so you will have to use either EDI or Ryder Online to submit your invoice. Bullet point 3. All required invoice data must be complete and accurate in order to avoid rejection and delayed payment. So what that means is when you submit an invoice, as long as you go through that checklist and submit the invoice with everything that's on that checklist, the invoice should not be rejected. So submit the invoice with all the required information and it will not be rejected. Bullet point 4. Ryder and Baker Hughes, a GE company, may request copies of invoices and all supporting documents at any time. Carriers should hold all paperwork for at least 3 years per the contracted agreement. So Baker Hughes goes through multiple internal audits throughout the year, and part of that audit process, it may require us to request documents from y'all. So you need to hold on to all paperwork, whether it is a physical copy or a digital copy, for at least 3 years, because we we will request documents at some point in time. The last bullet point, if an invoice is rejected, a notification will be sent to the email address that is provided during the SCAC setup. So that's exactly what it sounds like. If an invoice is rejected, y'all will be notified with whatever email was used to set up whenever y'all had the SCAC set up. And if you need to add an email address to that notification, just let us know and we can easily add another email so that that email address will also be notified. So the last slide. So these are going to be your contacts if you ever have any questions about the payment, why an invoice was rejected, when you can expect payment, so on and so forth. So your best option for getting a quick response is going to be contacting that bhifbap@ryder.com email. The reason I suggest you reaching out to that email is because everyone on the business intelligence team has access to this inbox. So let's say if I'm away from my desk or if I'm unable to make it into the office one day, at least 6 other people will have eyes on the inbox and be able to answer any questions you might have. And for whatever reason you feel like you haven't gotten a quick enough response or you need to escalate a question for urgency, you can feel free to reach out to Rebecca Renfro. She is the logistics manager of the business intelligence team here at Ryder, and you can see her email and phone number listed below. So that concludes the carrier onboarding presentation. If you have any questions over anything that we just went over, feel free to reach out to the bhifbap@ryder.com email. Anyone on the team will be able to answer any questions you might possibly have. Thank you.